Can you
Yeah.
explain that? How did you represent Spain? How'd you come to do that as somebody from Tunisia?
I asked them, I'm not Spanish. Is it okay for you guys? They said, bienvenido. Of course. The UN considers that every state has the sovereignty to decide who is representing him. So it can be someone from his country or anybody else, because they are free to decide who represent them to the UN. And that's why I told you it's something very common.
All right, if you're a really straight, like German style person, but somehow you got the job to represent Spain, do you start loosening up, loosen your tie, maybe take a couple chupitos, boom, boom? It's like, all right, loosen up. Do you ever
Well,
like joke about that with the other people that, are representing countries of like embracing stereotypes, I guess?
so you don't really see stereotypes about countries in the formal meeting, but then maybe when you meet the diplomats out of the meeting, because we are at the end, we are colleagues, we see each other every day, and like you can make some friends between them, and like go party with them, take drinks, and even some of them invited me for dinner at their house. They introduced me to their families. And that's those in those moments you can see that, yeah, from one culture to another you see some differences. But as you say, like when you go to this meeting, you take the hat. Hey, I'm the guy representing Spain, so I'm here to like just to say the position, the diplomatic position of the country I'm representing. But I cannot be in the meeting with chupitos or or sangria or anything. We're not at the Simpsons.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this episode of the Simpsons, in which, like, there is many episodes in fact of the Simpsons in which they show the UN, and yeah, in this episode you see many cliches. But sometimes you feel the moment, maybe the importance of the moment. I remember at that time, we were at the top of the humanitarian crisis in Syria, and Spain was a part of the Security Council. And I remember sometimes we were negotiating hours and hours to ask the Russians to let us have a humanitarian corridor, to let the humanitarian NGOs access to the population, the civil population, and give them food, give them medical assistance, all these kind of things. And I think, yeah, it wasn't always a success. We had some victories, but the humanitarian situation was that bad that I don't consider that as a success, because that's politics at the end. The Russian delegation had the interest to defend, and they were different to the Spanish delegation. Um, but yeah, you I think when you are in this kind of meetings, you have topics that are bigger than you, and you don't think about those jokes. You have in the UN mutual diplomacy for peace, so military peace, of course, human rights, um, sustainable development, that we can talk about it, but the UN also works about ending the poverty, and fight against the climate change. So find solutions so to stop the effects of climate change. So that's the four big issues at the UN that all the countries work about all together, and they have objectives. And it's been now more than 70 years that it exists. The main idea is that we have to bring all the conditions that we need to end poverty anywhere on the world, but by doing it in a sustainable way. So by respecting the environment, and maybe not using the same development model as we had in the developed countries, like in Europe or US, because like we have especially in the 19th century, those countries polluted a lot. And the idea is to say to the developing countries, that you guys can make development, can end poverty without using the same model, the same trajectory, by respecting the environment. And the UN is here for that, and the developed countries are here to support you in choosing this model of new development.
These are really lofty, and 2030 is pretty close now.
Yeah.
Is that, are we kind of on pace, or like how could we achieve that? Is that possible? What do you think it's actually like
Well,
attainable?
so personally, I would say it's hard. But that's the same thing. If I was speaking in the name of Spain, I would tell you we have those policies to make it happen, and we will make it happen. But as Becem, I would tell you it's not easy. But I like the idea to have, even for my personal life, so not only on the UN, but I like the idea of to have the high ambition and do your best to make it happen, than reducing the ambitions from the moment zero, and then eliminating any possibility that the best project can happen. And I think that's what the decision makers at the UN choose to do. This 2030 agenda is not only a paper, it's like the structure of the policy of the UN currently. And now, for example, if any country comes to the UN or to the World Bank asking for help, sometime we can tell him, well, you're asking, for example, $100 million to fund this project of I don't know, sanitation or industry in your country, but this project doesn't respect the objective, I don't know, number 13, that is protect the climate, protect the earth against climate change. Or maybe this hospital you're making in your countries is only for male people and not for female people, so you're not respecting the gender equality. So by time, those countries have to integrate those objectives in their policies if they want to get assistance.
I imagine the US and there are other countries, China, India, some of the biggest consumers, producers, and the big shakers that we really need to be on board. The US, with Trump, we were out of the Paris Agreement,
Yeah.
and then we came back in. What do you see changing, with this new presidency, this whole new, the next 4 years at least?
The first thing we can notice with this new administration is the new language about multilateral diplomacy. Because for Donald Trump, multilateral diplomacy was not a tool, was not an objective at all. It was unilateral. That's another word. That it was unilateral diplomacy, which means that me, and deal with it. So when he says America first, it wasn't only something for his people in the Republican Party. It was a way to say the problems in the world don't matter for me. What matters are the U.S. interest, and I will only help you guys if it's in our interest. I have to say that in diplomacy, we know that many countries are like that, but they don't say it out loud. Donald Trump was the only one saying that out loud because, well, it's Donald Trump. I'm not going to comment about the U.S. Politics.
But I'm asking you to.
Well, he's a more a businessman than a politician. So when you do business, it's easy to commit on something, and then you do it because that's your way of thinking. Diplomacy or politics are more complex than business, and that's why it wasn't good for multilateral diplomacy to deal with Donald Trump. because we want the UN or any other instrument of military diplomacy was not part of his priorities. So that's the first change we can notice with Joe Biden, because he directly said that he would sign again the Paris Agreement. Actually, he was very involved as a vice president in the negotiations of this agreement. Many people remember John Kerry or Barack Obama on this agreement because they were the people in front. But of course, they were only representing a government, as I said, for Spain. And we know that Joe Biden was very involved in the negotiation of this agreement already at that time. Um, but as well, he said that he sent a direct message to other countries around the world saying there is so many issues that we can fix together, and we are open again for dialogue, and let's meet again, let's discuss again, and let's face those issues together again. But like as I told you, I know that Joe Biden only focuses on the interest of the US and the US citizens, and I have no problem with that because every country does that. But at least the speech is respectful to military diplomacy and is open to dialogue, which is a lot.
There was something you said that was interesting back about Biden negotiating. It's actually the diplomats that are in the room talking. Tell me more about the life of a diplomat. It seems pretty glamorous, pretty fun. What are the biggest pros and cons, I guess?
Okay.
What's the life like?
Well, I have to say that there is as much pros that cons. It's very good to be a diplomat when you are young because you don't have a family, you don't have kids. But when you have a wife and kids, it starts to be tricky because a diplomat is always on the move. So if he's not based abroad, even when he's working for the government from the capital, he has a lot of missions. So which is good because you see a lot of countries, you meet a lot of different cultures, but it means that you're out of home for very frequently, and you're not there for your kids or your wife. And you say that it's glamorous. Yeah, it can be. There is good events like receptions, for example. The receptions that especially in a city like New York, because you have so much permanent representations of so much countries, that almost every week you have at least one country that is organizing something because it's the national day for him. So like if you don't come, it means that you're not a friend with this country. So at least you have to go there 5 minutes to take a beer to see like, okay, like to say everything is okay for us with your country, that we have no issue. um but yeah, so it happened for me on some nights to have to attend to 3 receptions on the same night because I was invited, and to not decline the invitation, I've been there, even if it was Wednesday and I had a meeting the next day at 8 a.m. You know.
All right.
But
Well, let's think if you don't have a meeting the next morning, what's the best country's reception to attend? Like, if you got to hit 3 of them because you got invited to 3 and you got to go to all, which one would you put last? You know, like save the best for last. Was there anyone that was well known around? It's like, hey, that one's gonna be good.
um, well, I would say the first that impacted me, it wasn't for a reception, but it was for a lunch. It was Italy, the permanent representation of Italy, because when you have a meeting with Italians at their embassy, you eat very well.
And they won't be late either, right? For
No,
their own.
exactly, and they are very nice. They give you good Italian wine, good prosciutto, good
The
Italian
best.
cheese. That's great. And I have to say, when you go as a Spanish diplomat to Italian embassy. You are a European diplomat, so you are friends. Myself in Tunisia, we have a lot of Italians because it's very close, Italy and Tunisia. So like that's great. You go to see them, they receive you very well. I remember also once Thailand organized a reception, and the funny thing is that the ambassador of Thailand is himself a guitarist. So he plays guitar, and
Oh, okay.
and so that night he did, of course, the diplomatic stuff, like salute everyone, speak with everyone, and everything. And at the end, he played during the concert with the band that was playing for the reception, and it was just amazing, So yeah, so those are the receptions that I remember. There was as well Egypt that in New York organized a big fiesta, a big party, and almost everyone was invited. And like it was open bar, they offered a lot of mojitos, chupitos to everyone. But I cannot tell you that's something from Egypt. It's just because that ambassador of Egypt did it this way, and he knows how to receive people. There is also some reception because you know that at the UN you have goodwill ambassadors, and there are Hollywood star movies that really care about one cause, and they stand with the UN to help the UN to speak about one issue, or to do some to raise some funds to finance this cause. And those reception can be nice. Sometimes you can see the wife of George Clooney. What's her name? Amal Clooney. She's an international lawyer, and she really cares about human rights. And at any moment when you need to defend any human right cause, if you contact her as the UN or as the ambassador of a country representation to the UN, she's here. She's very open. Sometimes just by asking her to come to a reception, you make your reception as a success, and you make people talking about this cause, or give donations to fund this cause because she's there. And so yeah, you have some receptions that are like that. There was a reception with Leonardo DiCaprio. Didn't attend that time. I had other receptions, but yeah, I regret. There was a Stevie Wonder that came once. You have those kind of glamorous moments, but you have to use it to serve your cause, of course. It's not you don't organize a reception just to see Stevie Wonder at your embassy,
He shows up and he's like, "All right, what's the cause?" And you're like, "Here's a piano." He's like, "Oh God, here we go again."
Everybody, there's somebody. But also, you can do receptions. For example, Human Rights Council in Geneva. You need to be elected to have a chair at the Human Rights Council. So, as any election, you need to do campaign. And when you do campaign at the UN, you don't do rallies like Trump or Biden, but you do receptions. You invite many countries to your embassy, and it's the opportunity to meet with them and to check if they're going to vote for you or not, and to also, if they have some doubts, to talk about your project, why you want to be elected, what ambition do you have with this mandate, all this kind of stuff. So it can be that, or for example, if you have an important issue in your country you want to sensitize about, you can do a reception at your embassy for that. And if you have a lack of awareness and you make it you're able to invite any star from your country, then you invite those people. I remember that Spain once invited Rafael Nadal to their embassy to make people come for their cause. It wasn't the moment in which I was there, so I haven't met Nadal. But yeah, that's something they can do, and I'm sure US does it as well, and I'm sure France does it as well. It's like just you have to use your tools to make people get the message you want to to give them. Actually, diplomacy comes from Greece, from diplos, and in ancient Greek, diplos means message.
Hmm.
So your job as a diplomat is to bring the message they sent you to communicate. So you can use any tool, even having Rafael Nadal in your embassy, to transmit the message you're there for. You know,
All right, Becem, I got a question for you.
tell me. Mhm.
Were you always in line with this, like that you were really excited about multilateral diplomacy? Like, when did that start? Were you on the playground, like settling arguments and be like, all right, this person really needs this for you to, for that you play? It's like, then you could play, or your turn next. Like, what were you like as a kid?
During my childhood, um, uh, just to give you an idea about the background, my father is himself a lawyer, you know, and like he really has uh, this spirit of like being the guy who give you argument to convince you, or tries to explain you things. And I think I got that from my father. um, I'm not sure that at 8 or 7 I was already talking about multilateral diplomacy. Uh, that's something I discovered later. But yeah, when you say about like trying to resolve conflicts between two friends or something, yeah, I had some of that. Yeah, maybe I wasn't aware that it was diplomacy already at that moment, but yeah, uh, yeah, I think it's something of from my personality. Yeah.
So it seems like all the work that you've done thus far really suited you. You weren't too lost. Like a lot of kids just starting college, for example. They're like, oh, what do I want to major in? I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
And it's something we all have to find out, is what job really fits us. So you knew pretty early, like this job came to you, or is it kind of
No,
like
no.
overlap with the
About
lawyer?
diplomacy, concretely. No, no. When I graduated from high school, I wanted to become an attorney, because I started to study law first. And yeah, as I told you, my father is a lawyer, and like so you know how it is when your father has one profession, and you sometimes he asks you for help for his job, so you already know more or less about this job.
Mm.
And then like it can happen that you want to do the same job. So that was my starting point with the legal studies. um, but then I by studying law, I learned about international law, and then international relations. And yeah, it suited me, as you say. That was something that I was interested in without doing efforts. And I was really motivated to like to read more about this topic, to do research about this topic, to get more culture for myself. Like, you know, for when you do something because the professor asked you to do it. So it can happen on some topics, but with international relations, it came to me very interesting without any effort. So that's why I went further in this. And as well, when I was at the university, I did the Model United Nations. So it's kind of a simulation of United Nations, and every student is a diplomat for 2 or 3 days, and like they tell you, okay, you represent Netherlands, you represent Tanzania, you represent Brazil. Find an agreement, you know, about this topic, you know. And that's where
Yep.
you learn to negotiate, you learn to get the knowledge you need about this topic. So you can first define your objective as a country, as a delegation, but as well to know what are the objectives of the other countries. Because a good negotiator has to know the background of the other part, to know where is the area in which you can find a balanced agreement. Because you need to be two, or you need to be a group to agree on a topic. um, so
Yeah. That
Yeah.
is one really powerful life lesson, right? Is to make people come together in agreement. Like, wow, that's maybe the strongest
Mm.
skill that you could really ask for. What other skills or life lessons did you learn from traveling or the UN, all this diplomatic efforts other than, teamwork?
Yeah.
What are some other life lessons that you could impart to us?
Yeah, I would start by traveling. I would say it makes you think about who you are and what is your culture about. Because when you are always in the same city, the same country, you grow up in an environment in which what you live, the way of living, is very normal because everyone is like that. So you don't even question why we do this, or why we eat this, or why people meet together by this, by those traditions. It's so obvious because you don't know anything else. And by traveling, I think it made me think about my background and identify what are the good things and what are the things I should change or try to change. Uh, when I say it's about myself, I'm not here to teach other Tunisians about how life should be and how to change their culture, but about myself. Yeah, there is things that I discovered that made me think about myself and made me wish to become a better person. And also, as a Tunisian, I teach things to my friends in Spain, France, or in the US about things we do in Tunisia that I think is good, and we should share with them. I don't know. That's what traveling gave me most, I think.
What would you tell the people in Spain or about Tunisia that are some things that other people would like to bring into their lives? Or
What I really like about the Mediterranean culture, about before we talk about Tunisia, because those are elements that are very common to many Mediterranean countries. If you go to Tunisia, if you go to Greece, if you go to Italy, to Spain, you will find those common points. Is first the food, the food that I consider that is, I know it's not objective at all, but for me the best food in the world is in the Mediterranean countries. um,
I
and
love that you start with food first because for me that's the most important.
when you go to a new culture, a new country, start by the food. It's a very good starting point.
All
uh,
right, we got that covered. But
so yeah, Mediterranean culture is that it's a lot of seafood, a lot of fish, a lot of olive oil. Like in Tunisia, we have a lot of olive trees, but you go to Spain and Greece, it's the same. What was actually sad when I've been to the US and I bought olive oil. Next time you go to supermarket, you can try to see that on the package. They tell you that the olive oil you have in this bottle is 20% from the US, 15% from Spain, 12% from Greece, 2% from Chile. It's like mixed. And I said, why? Why do mixed? And like when I asked some friends from the US, they told me it's just because the taste of olive oil in the US is very neutral. So they try to make the perfect mix of olive oil to don't have a too strange taste for the US consumers.
hmm.
For me, it's a disgrace, but I can understand the logic,
Yeah,
because
it's a good description. But so you're telling me that like you shouldn't mix like Merlot with Pinot Noir wine and it's not a good idea?
no, 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 no. Sorry. Don't start doing the American. You know that it's not a good idea. Stop
Wait,
being
can we just make
cliche.
a hamburger out of it? Can we like
Stop with the cliches.
all right, I'll stop insulting everybody around the world.
Yeah. So yeah. So also wine, actually, it's something that is you find in many Mediterranean countries. um, so that's something I like. The lifestyle you have is actually very healthy. The tomatoes, the all the vegetables you find there are just delicious. Always about as well about the people. In the Mediterranean countries, people are very spontaneous, which is something I like. Actually, in some countries, they are Muslim, and not a lot of not. It's not very common for people to drink. Right? In Tunisia, you have a part of the population who drinks, but it's not common. And people are very welcoming. You talk to them in the street, asking for the route, for example, and like they will help you very easily. Don't
Yeah.
get me started about Tunisia, because when you ask me about that, I'm too long, I think.
No, it's good. I mean, it's anything that's new, and especially talking about like different cultures and ways of life. I think we're all kind of yearning for that right now, with COVID not being able to travel. It's
Yeah,
good to hear talking about that. You remember the first time we met?
yeah, in Lugo.
In Lugo, Spain,
Yeah,
in
in Spain,
region of
Galicia.
Galicia.
Yeah, yeah, I remember, of course. And actually, I don't know if Camille follows you in this podcast, but my greetings to Camille,
Yeah,
uh,
well,
and
sure to send it to her.
to your brother as well,
Yeah.
because they were roommates, I think.
But that was so fun staying there because you were there as well as Vincent,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I went to visit, and I didn't know that y'all were visiting. And
yeah.
next thing you know, we're all skipping around bar to bar doing the tapeo.
Yeah, it's not a little thing. It's like tapa is kind of a plate or sandwich or something. So sometimes you don't even have to order food. You just take 2 or 3 drinks and you're full. So that's incredible. And like for Camille and your brother that were living there, like they started to get it as a normal thing. But for us, the guests, for Vincent, for you, for me, it was like, what? Like it's like the same feeling as people who discovered oil in in the 20th century. It's like, why we didn't know about it before,
Yeah, when the food came and our drinks, we were dancing like prospectors, like, oh, we found oil. Oh, this is unbelievable.
Exactly.